This week we're going to do one specific testimony with a guy named Taylor Smith, who's a part of our church. That's right, Tay-Tay. Just realized that. We call him Tay-Tay. All right. Henceforth, he shall be Tay-Tay. All right. So, you know, we were so clamped down for 2 years on where we could go and what we could do. And now that the restrictions are sort of being alleviated, we've just had this opportunity to really start dreaming about how we can engage with the world. And Taylor let me know about 2 weeks ago that this opportunity had arisen for him to go to Ukraine. Like, he just got back. And he was keeping me in touch while he was there. They were able to do some really cool things while they were there, him and a few others. So I just asked Taylor, Tay-Tay, if he would come forward and share. So Taylor, where are you, man? Oh, there you are. Come on up.
Yeah, shout out to Johnny G.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was just thinking about, Jared asked me this morning if I'd share, and a lot of folks, thank you for praying, and there's a couple in this church that just walked up and gave me $5,000 before I left to take with me, and
oh, wow.
You know, they felt like God led them to do it, and I was like, yeah, cool, we'll take it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what opportunities will present themselves, because I had a little bit of notice to go.
Yeah.
But standing here, I guess I was just thinking about it. You know, two things came to mind. One, war is death and destruction. I mean, war brings with it death and destruction in every dimension. And that's certainly going on in the Ukraine right now. I've never been in combat before, and while we were not in combat, we were in the war for the 48 hours that I was there. And it was just eye-opening as to what that phrase means. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of raw, and you can't sugarcoat it. Yeah. But in the midst of that, so where's God in war? And I don't think I could have answered that question before I went, so I can share with you, and those that are veterans, I really appreciate your service. But God is in war through the people that I was with. And I don't understand it. All I know is that I was with God, and God was in the Ukraine. And where he was coming from Jacksonville in the form of money that was used to buy washing machines to wash clothes of people who've been displaced and had their homes blown up in February 24th, 25th, 26th, some of whom had walked 200 miles with nothing. We've all seen pictures of roller bags and backpacks, people walking. Well, that's exactly what happened. 11 million people have been displaced out of 40 million people that live in the Ukraine. So I saw principals who've overnight of public schools become shelter managers. I talked to a lady that's worked 24/7 since February 26th in her school of 1,400 kids. That's a regular K-8 public school. She never went home. She's never left. And she's married and 60 years old and had a life, and now she runs a shelter for 400 families that we used our money to supply literally washing machines because people hadn't washed their clothes. They've been one shower for 300 plus people. And we bought diapers, we bought these in Hungary. We bought food, we bought non-perishables. It was just interesting, right? That was the $5,000 gift that became a life support for this group of folks. Where else was God? God was in the people. God is in the people, normal people who are sharing Christ by being alive. And those that survived have become servants. You know, this is a coalition of charismatic churches that has partnered with these are Ukrainians, a coalition of messianic congregations. And I had read somewhere that Ukrainians don't like Jews. Well, they must not have got the memo, because this was like completely ecumenical and God serving through his people. And again, that's kind of like, it was a little bit like post-Katrina, if you served in that capacity, or post-hurricane, post-earthquake, New Orleans. You know, these are amazing opportunities to see God at work on the ground. But Jared, I think another dimension is usually there aren't bombs falling on you while you're doing post-hurricane work.
Wow.
And so the people there, and I'm going to share in 1 second about how you might feel called to help, because I believe this war is morally, there's moral clarity in what we're doing. We are the hands and feet of Christ, and this is a chance for us to be the hands and feet of Christ to people in the Ukraine very efficiently, but it's also, there's moral clarity. In my opinion, they're defending life, and they're just trying to live. The second thing is there's practical, and they're practically sound ways we're helping. Our government is sending massive amounts of lethal aid, and whatever our opinion is on aid in the form of weapons, that's a whole nother discussion, but in the form of non-lethal aid, the people of God are literally providing food, medical supplies by the tons.
Wow.
In Jacksonville alone, while we were there, the Rotary got the word out, and a Baptist hospital is donating 127 tons of medical supplies
Wow.
to go to the Ukraine. Well,
Wow.
how do you get it there, right?
Right.
So some other people made some calls, and UPS donated a 747. And so
Wow.
the 17th, the 747 is leaving, flying straight to Warsaw. And then we've gotten truckers, Ukrainian truckers that live in Europe, and they've donated their time to drive their semi-trucks to the airport in Warsaw and then drive the material into Ukraine, and where it'll be distributed to warehouses, some of which are pre-positioned in the combat zones. I mean, that's just one example, and no one's getting paid. It's all volunteer work. So the other thing, though, I think God gave it to me, I believe, is we sing this song, Death Has Lost Its Sting, right? Well, clearly death has not lost its sting if you're one of the families I was with who've lost people. And we saw so many people. We received injured, just descriptions are hard to describe, but death has lost its sting in the sacrifice of the people that are running the shelters, that are driving there were 9 Sprinter vans. This one other anecdote, I was talking to a guy. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm an architect. I escaped Kiev, crawled through fields. I got to the town where we were. And he said, now I'm driving Sprinter van every third day because it's what I can do. So I drive a van full of supplies to various places. I unload the supplies and I bring back refugees to leave. And we were with the refugees in this school.
That's cool.
And I said, wow, how's that going? He said, well, it goes pretty well. He said, yesterday we found out you guys were coming, and so today we're loading all your stuff on our vans, and then we're going to go out tomorrow. And I said, that's fantastic. Well, the day right before we left, we found out that of the 9 vans that went out, 7 came back. And so the Russians killed 2 of the drivers, and the point was 7 of them came back, and we had a going away thing, and we were able to talk to, different people, and it's like, and they're going back. It's like not even a hiccup. I mean, there's mourning. Of course, the sting has not left the families of the victims. But those that are working just get up the next morning and they go again. And for me, it's like, where is God in this? Well, God is absolutely in everything he talks about in 1 Corinthians 13. He's kind and gentle and compassionate and forgiving and loving and sacrificial. And just to see that happening with no respite, and no light at the end of the tunnel, gave me a huge boost in faith, made me feel very unworthy of what they're doing, but glad to be a part of the little bits that we can do. So God is there. God is in war, but he's not where I thought he would be. He's in the hearts of the people giving, and in this case, defending lots of things. The other thing is, okay, how can we be involved? If you feel like a prick on your heart, that's a fantastic thing. I think that's God bumping into us, regardless of our role in this conflict. But if you feel like you want to do something, I think you could give money. There's a Ukrainian church in Jacksonville called Living Stream, and they have an operation set up in the Ukraine that I was with, and that's 100% the money goes to food, medical supplies, and fuel to drive the vans, and maybe to buy another Sprinter van. That's one way to help. If you want to donate stuff, we have a warehouse that we donated here in Jacksonville that's large, and so we're collecting supplies. The Ukrainian church leads the effort, but I can put you in touch, or I'm sure Martha could. I can give her the information on where you can take clothes It's the normal hurricane stuff. Clothes, non-perishables,
Yeah.
generators if you have them. If you happen to have level 4 body armor, that would be great for the drivers. But like, just know that anything you want to give material-wise, there are 11 million people. So that'll go, we're paying for the transportation. It will fly and ship to the Ukraine. Third thing is there's some families that the stories are extraordinary. One family I met yesterday afternoon at the warehouse, they were folding clothes to be shipped to the Ukraine next week. They got here yesterday from Mexico, via California. They walked out of the Ukraine. They walked out of their bombed city to a shelter. They made it to Poland. They made it to California. They walked into the United States. Very friendly admission on probation as applicants for refugee status. They made their way to Jacksonville through the community of Ukrainians. I met them yesterday, and I'm like, well, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And they were so sweet. They gave me a hot cup of tea, and they just said, no, pray. But then the other guy, the logistics guy, said they need a car. So I said, how many people need a car? Well, in Jacksonville, there are 100 families in this already settled, and like this family's living with another family of 6. So there's 13 in a 3-bedroom house. And they'll be placed in jobs, they think. So another way you can help, if you have people or people that have old cars, there's a need for 10 or 20 cars in Jacksonville. If you feel like you can pray, then pray for the heart of the Russians to be changed. I think if Putin would change his heart, the war would stop. So you can certainly pray for that. You can pray for the suffering to be relieved in tangible ways and spiritual ways. And then the next chapter will be spiritually counseling and support and all the things that come after traumatic experiences. Yep. So we'll be involved in that. This is not a short-term mission trip. There's ways we'll connect and probably provide prayer ministry. Mm-hmm. I prayed for a couple of people on the trip. We saw some healing, but my group of 8 ended up being 2. So there are only 2 of us. So we physically try to load.
That, just to be clear, 2 only ended up going.
2 only ended up going.
Right.
Thank you, sorry.
Right, that's okay.
And there'll be opportunities to go in person. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go back at the end of the month to deliver to be on the ground for some more things. But yeah, just know God's there. God's great. And if you wanna give in any possible way, talk to me or Martha and the normal crowd. So.
All right, awesome, man. Thank you. That's incredible.